Hey everyone, I'm Danny Werner, and today we're going to be taking a look at this, the ADA MP1 Preamp. Now this thing is kind of like, my sort of Dumble sound, if you know what I mean. I don't mean it sounds like a Dumble, I mean the way people react over a Dumble, and they like lust after it and they want that sound. That's kind of the feeling that I get from this particular unit. This is like the sound of my childhood and me learning how to play guitar. So I've always been really excited about this piece. And when I finally got my hands on one, it was like a dream come true. It was awesome. So this came out in 1987, and it was a preamp in the kind of, you could say it falls in line with things like the Bogner Fish, the Soldano X88, and the Mesa Boogie Triaxis, things like that. This was used by people like Nuno Bettencourt, Paul Gilbert, Billy Corgan, Vernon Reid. Believe it or not, from what I've read online, it even seems like Angus Young had one. Now, I don't think you're going to be hearing it on any ACDC records, but, you know, quite a lot of famous people had one. So it's a pretty decent unit, shall we say. So anyway, let's dive into what this thing can do. So this thing has 3 different voicings here by the voicing mode. You got the tube distortion, which sounds killer. It's that Nuno sound. It's got tube clean, which, yes, it's clean, but I would say it falls more in the kind of Marshall plexi sort of territory. So when you kind of start to turn the gain up on this thing, it can crunch up a little bit, and you can get some really cool classic rock distorted tones from it. And then arguably one of my favorite sounds on this thing is the third voicing, which is the solid state clean, which also has a compressor built into it. We'll come back to that in a second though. So let's look through all the things on the front panel here. You've got the overdrive 1, overdrive 2, a master gain, bass, mid, treble, and presence is your EQ section. Then it's got an option for your effects loop on and off. And it's also got a built-in chorus, which has a depth control and a rate control. Next to that, we've got the voicing, which would select kind of one of the voices of gain that you want, whether it's distortion, clean, or solid state. You've got the edit function, and then finally, store. So you can store any of your settings. I believe this was one of the first MIDI programmable preamps, and you can save up to 128 patches in there. It already comes with a whole bunch in it, and they all sound pretty good. So in the demo that I used for the first track in the opening of the video, this is all them sounds with the MP1 going straight into this ADA Cab Simulator that I've got, into this Yamaha EMP100, and I'm only using reverbs and delays for that. I'm just using it for a little bit of ambience here and there on certain things, but I'm certainly not using any chorus, flanger, any modulation effects, things like that on there. To be honest, it doesn't need it, but also it doesn't really showcase what the MP1 does, which is the whole idea of this video. What I did do, though, was I found a PDF online, and that had a whole bunch of different MP1 settings and sounds. So rather than spend all day trying to tweak sounds that I like, just to give a overall impression of what this unit sounds like, I just randomly selected sounds that I thought may work, and we're going to try them out. So when you see the settings on the screen, they're literally pulled from that PDF, which I'll also post a link to in the description if you want to try them out yourself. But I haven't tweaked any of them. They're literally just what it says on the PDF, and that is what I've used. Now in this next track coming up, I did also pull the Nuno Bettencourt settings that you can find online. I'll also post a link to that PDF, just in case anyone wants them sounds, because I do every once in a while get someone who contacts me and says, how do you get that Nuno sound out of this thing? It does do it, but there are other factors that go into that sound, which I do have another video on the Washburn N4, and maybe more so than the guitar itself, it is the Bill Lawrence pickup. You got to get the, either an original Bill Lawrence or a one of the Bill and Becky's. They're a huge part of that sound. Also, so is the double tracking. The parts have to be hard panned left and right and tracked, and if you're going to do harmonics only on one side, things like that. But they're a big part of the sound. But this thing will do it. In the Nuno sound that I've got to begin the second track, the bass is a little higher than I would perceive it to be in his sound. I believe it's maybe his live settings, but I've left them exactly as written, just so you can hear how that sounds. And then we're into some other stuff. In this second piece, I'm not going through the Cab Simulator. I'm actually going to be running the ADA as a preamp going into the effects return of my Bogner. So what we're using is the preamp going into an EL34 power section. Then that is going into the Fryette power station, and then into the computer where I'm using a Bogner IR. I use the Own Hammer IRs. They sound really good. And for anyone that's interested, it's a Bogner 2x12 with a SM57. So that is kind of the sounds that's going on this second track. And let's take a listen to it and just see what it sounds like. So that is the ADA MP1 Preamp. I managed to get this thing for about $600, and on the used market, prices kind of vary a little bit. You might see them between $600 and $1,200 is what I'm currently seeing them at. Prices may rise. I'm not sure. They used to be a lot cheaper a couple of years ago. But I do get this feeling that rack gear is coming back. Like I said, I do have sometimes people ask me about the MP1 and kind of getting that Nuno sound. And Soldano recently brought out their X88 preamp again. Bogner did a reissue of the Fish. I do see people putting out more and more videos and people wanting to buy an SPX90. So I think some of that 80s sound and the rack gear is coming back just a little bit. So you may see a little more demand for it. But keep your eyes on it. Right now, they're kind of reasonable. So that is the ADA MP1. You can get them with a couple of different mods. There's the 3TM mod, which would put an extra preamp tube in there. There's also stuff that kind of makes the noise level of it a little quieter. There's some that make it sound more like a dual rectifier. Things like that. You can look all this up, and you can find it all on ADA Depot, which is a website and a great resource for pretty much all things ADA. It gives you the whole history of the company on there. And I think it's a forum. You can find people selling ADA things on there because they're not exactly the most readily available. You do have to search the used market for them. But I can tell you, this thing I've been super pleased with from the day I got it. And I actually use it on quite a lot of recording sessions. So, that is it. Please go check out some of the links that I put in the description. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel. I will be putting out more gear demos and things like that. And I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.